Let's take a look at futures here this morning. The Dow, the Nasdaq, and the S&P all closed yesterday at their highest in about a month's time. And the Nasdaq had its best six-day streak going back to April of 2020. But that's changing this morning as we see all three major averages pull back. Nasdaq now indicating a drop of 0.8% at the open. S&P and Dow futures showing a drop of around 0.5% at the opening bell. And here are the three things that you need to know this morning. First up, Moderna says it is going to be filing an emergency use authorization for its vaccine in young children. That is children under 6 years old, and gave out some early results of a trial that it did on children of that age. It said that the vaccine prevented about 44% of infection, symptomatic illness specifically, among children 6 months to 2 years old. And it was 37% effective in children 2 through 5 years old. So obviously here we're talking about a much different efficacy level than in adults. But that said, we don't know what the efficacy level actually is in adults when it comes to Omicron specifically. So perhaps we're talking about a different standard there. I should also mention that Moderna tested a quarter-size dosage in these young children. Pfizer and BioNTech, which have not yet had their vaccine approved for the youngest cohort, they have been testing a dosage level of about 1/10 of the full adult dose. So there's some moving parts here, but parents of young children, safe to say, they have been anxiously awaiting this approval, even a conditional approval, during this long pandemic, because of course this is the last age group to have gotten access to the vaccine. It's interesting here, Saz, that it is Moderna that looks like, granted they're applying for the EUA, they haven't gotten it yet. And we are expecting some study results coming from Pfizer and BioNTech sometime in April. But it is interesting that Moderna might be the first mover here.
Well, potentially good news for humanity, Julie, of course. But you're probably wondering, well, why isn't the stock ripping higher here in the pre-market? And a friend of the show, Hartaj Singh, probably one of the best biotech analysts on the street, he's over at Oppenheimer, sending me a couple comments here, perhaps explaining why we're not seeing that stock pop. First, tells me that Moderna has been signaling this would be a likely outcome at several investor conferences. And then this, number two, another comment from Hartaj saying, quote, the pediatric market tends to be smaller. It is a parental decision to vaccinate their children. And most parents will likely be cautious as the COVID-19 vaccines are not a one and done thing like smallpox. So investors have a lot to wade through here as well. But again, a positive development nonetheless.
Yeah, a positive development. Again, we know they're applying. We don't know that they will get that EUA, but it is something that parents of young children have been waiting for. So we'll keep monitoring that.